in the Ukraine has now jumped over the ocean is in the United States now, so that's kind of a concern. And so we're keeping an eye on that. I can get into that more if you want me to.
Okay.
But whatever you want to talk about would be great.
Well, thank you. That isn't something that has been on our radar of late. Mm-hmm. Although, if you look at what I was talking about the Anglo-Saxon mission, the letter from the whistleblower that's published on, again, ProjectCamelot.org. And by the way, those images that you see on ProjectCamelot.org are all clickable, and those will take you to written testimony and also to videos, depending on which image you click on. So I think some people that use the web are actually not familiar with the fact that you just roll your mouse over a picture, and if it shows a little hand or whatever, it is clickable, and therefore it'll take you, it's a link, and it'll take you somewhere. But at any rate, this idea that there might be sort of an epidemic of anything, I have to say that from what I understand, this is not going to happen until after, and, this sounds bizarre, but according to the Anglo-Saxon whistleblower who is still in contact with me, this rollout of a virus or any kind of virus that ultimately is really targeting China from what they are saying. And again, the Chinese government high up is going to be aware of this and allowing this to happen. But at any rate, this is not going to happen until the attack with Iran happens, if that happens. So is that your understanding, or are you seeing something else?
Well, this is a biological horse that was released out of the horse race gate. It can't be stopped, and it has a mind of its own unless those people that have the ability, which they do have, release another strain that's just as deadly as the second one that they released in the Ukraine. Well, the one that they released in Ukraine has on its own natural progression migrated and now is in the States. We're having a little bit of a problem in a pocket. It's not pandemic. There is an area in the United States that is of concern, and I'm not going to say where that is yet. It's not something we should be focused on, I don't think, right now. But I believe, like you said.
What about the attack on Iran? You're getting information in this regard?
Yeah, the attack on Iran is really going to happen. The problem that we have with that is we were thinking it could have been within hours of when I heard about their mobilization to attack Iran. And a lot of times with intelligence information, Carrie, we might have information like, for example, I had somebody that took me under the arm and kind of showed me the ropes, and he was on the nuclear emergency survival team. It was called NEST, and that's the one that goes out looking for missing nukes, by the way. And what he taught me about intelligence, and he spent 45 years in counter espionage and counterintelligence in the military. What he taught me is that, there's a probability. We went from, let's back up and I'll kind of give you a comparison. They used to predict the weather when I was growing up. It was either going to rain or not rain. And then it came along the weather forecasters that started saying, well, we have a 60% chance it's going to rain or 70. And I don't know if you remember that, but I remember my father going, well, I wish they'd just tell us whether it's going to rain. Well, in the intelligence community, you really don't say they are or they aren't, because these are involving people that have to make their mind up. Even up to the last minute, they might change their mind, even though all the intentions, all the intent, all of the intelligence that you've gathered has actually pointed to an event that's horrible. And so we can only hope that when these kinds of things are about ready to happen, they're either delayed or canceled, postponed, or we have a James Bond on the scene at the last minute rescuing humanity from a problem. And that has happened. So those guys, are actually out there and they're doing this kind of stuff. And, we have a whole line, a whole multifaceted front of things that are coming at us. We had what you just heard about earth changes. And I had information that earth changes would come in the form of floods, not as opposed to ocean waters rising. And so we're getting extreme number of heavy snows. Now that's being trailed by a great deal of water and rain. And the Midwest is flooding. We've got all that going. And then we have the geopolitical scene with Iran. And the timing with that, along with all the other internal domestic things, has really fanned a fuse that was already lit. And I can tell you, a lot of people, let me give you a little bit of dissection about the militia. The militia oftentimes was brainwashed in our head and us consumers or people in the street, so to speak, as being viewed as guys running around in camouflage, and they're just, somebody calls them up and, hey, there's a bad guy, go after him. That's not how it works. The militia leadership have been in constant dialogue with intelligence people. They talk to the adjutant generals of each of their states. They talk to the FBI. So they've been dealing for years with the government. And the government knows the good ones, the government knows the bad ones, and there is an agenda, of course, that comes through the media that has nothing to do with the real, true, actual workings of the militia. In fact, the militia has many more peacetime projects of trying to get people removed out of office that are compromising the country and causing people to die and go, get hurt and stuff like that, as there are anything else. I mean, they prepare. Yeah, they can rattle sabers. And yes, they are a force I wouldn't want to reckon with, even if I was the United States corrupt government. And this last event, this last event with the health care bill has really put the militias on alert. And here's how this works, Carrie. There are some militias in the country that are larger than others, obviously, and there are some areas that don't have any at all. And so those areas that are strong, you'll often find also are states that have passed laws now that they won't cooperate. Now, what we're going to see, and some of my last year's predictions for this year were, first of all, there would be a peaceful attempt to remedy and redress all the grievances we have. So we'd have peaceful demonstrations. We'd have court cases. We'd have attempts to get the Congress and the Senate to pass bills to bring some of our freedoms back. And as we do those, my prediction was that if those were to fail, I know there are plenty of people that don't want to hear this, but I know there's plenty of people ready to lay down the pen and pick up the gun. And I don't say that lightly, but I don't say that recklessly either. These aren't reckless people. These are people that are saying, look, what have we got to lose? And here's how they explain it. If you're being dragged off in a parking lot by a couple of guys that pulled up in a van, the lady she's going out to her car from the shopping center, and a van pulls up, two guys grab her, that person should know, or people like Duncan are teaching them, look, if they can't do what they're going to do in that parking lot, they're going somewhere where they can. So you need to fight with your life right there in the parking lot, because if they'll kill you in the parking lot, Carrie, they'll kill you wherever they're going. So we don't need to be hoping on the blue moon that this person isn't going to hurt us when we know with our common sense that they're not dragging us in that van for a haircut. We're headed for major trouble. And so the militias, they're not stupid, but they're not Joe Sixpack like a lot of people think. They are they're dialoguing right now. They're saying, please don't let this get too far. Now, because of this saber rattling, which became very strong in the mid-1990s, they had a huge media campaign to ruin the